I'm very happy and honored to be here today to share my experience and thoughts about the balcony world that I've been working with a long period of time. So this will be our theme today, the balcony concept, what it is, what it can be, what the potential it gives to all of us in the design world. But even before going deeper into today's theme, I would like to have a brief look at the architect's world and job and the task the way I see it. I just made up one definition of what we do as architects. What we're trying to do is to create useful and meaningful spaces where practicality meets beauty. This is just one of many definitions that we can have, but you know, this is a great profession and all of this makes a lot of sense. What about architects' role, ethics, and mission? Who am I to tell? No better than anyone else. But I think this is, generally speaking, a good question that whatever the profession is that we have, we think about the role and the meaning of our work. The mission, I think, is pretty clear. To design better living environment, to design better working environment, to design better architecture for all of us that surrounds all of us in different kind of environments. Ethics, then again, that's something that we architects tend to use. This is not only the medical professionals' special world. The way I see the ethics is that we need to use in all our assignments our best practices and best understanding and best special knowledge to create good architecture, not only fulfilling the wishes and needs of the paying customer. Architect's role, it's meant to be the leading role in the design process. And how is that justified? I think it's justified by the holistic approach in the profession. To be successful in the work, we obviously need to understand the needs of the customer very well. That's fundamental and very important. Obviously, we need to use our best knowledge and understanding of good aesthetics. We're known for that. But on top of these things, we need to know about technology. We need to know about economics and costs. If we can't manage all of that, we lose the role of leading the design process. So basically, we are fulfilling human needs on a private level. On top of that, as we humans are animals who live in packs, mostly, there are the social needs. On the social level, how we interact with each other, how we live and work in communities. We need to understand that. And finally, in the big picture, which relates to urban planning, building well-working societies, we need to look into that perspective. And we also need to play our part in the fight against the climate change. But now today, let's concentrate on the home. The home, which is the most important place in the world for all of us, really. Whether it's our private house or whether it's the apartment that we live in. So could there be anything more important for an architect to design than designing a good living environment, a good home? Very important task. And further focusing on today's theme, let's pay attention to the specific zone between the interior and the exterior. I think there's a lot of hidden potential in this zone, which we often call balconies, winter gardens, enclosed enclosures, balcony enclosures, sun space, whatever. But it's very specific. Whether we live in an area, in an urban area, a suburban area, like in this photograph, or whether it's a different kind of location where the balcony opens up into the wild nature. All these spaces, when they are closed with a retractable balcony glazing, it gives us a very special feeling. And believe me, I've been on many balconies. It's a specific feeling of being outside and inside at the same time. Get the feel of the outdoors and yet be protected at the same time. It's something that is not really achievable anywhere else. As Nicholas already mentioned, I've worked a long time for Lumon. I've been privileged to work in the international business, which means that I've been traveling a lot. I've seen a lot of different kinds of balconies in different parts of Europe especially, but also beyond. I can see the variation, how this zone between the exterior and interior is handled with. It's the open balconies, different glazing systems. There's different construction technology. There's different way of managing housing companies, ownership, administration, different kind of living culture, different kind of urban environment in many ways. At the same time, the fundamental human needs are quite similar. I've seen a lot of great buildings with lots of balconies, with not so much use, unfortunately. And that's where I like to focus more. I wish that we can all pay more attention in the future to actually make sure that these balconies are built for meaningful use. What we see here is nothing more than just a couple of bad mobile phone shots, traveling somewhere in the eastern part of London. And again, I can't help but thinking how we see the missed opportunity to, again, in a busy, bustling city, deserted balconies with very modest use. But fortunately, this is all changing and will further change in the future. I'm confident on that. Well, how about the glazed balconies then? What are they like? They can be very different. Different looks, different technology. And this relates to the evolution of balconies and different development in different countries by different companies. When comparing these, I must admit that I do sympathize the one on the left. There's something very cozy in it. But if I, as an architect, was to design an apartment building, I would definitely go for the one on the right. Very clear, very transparent, easy to use system. The one in the middle is fine too. And it's a matter of opinion, I suppose. But to me, it seems like something a little bit unnecessarily sealed and closed, sort of losing the special sense of a balcony. Another way to look at this, and I just picked up some photographs going from a bay window somewhere in London, a nice building, nice space. But it's a bay window. It's part of the apartment, part of the living room, probably. Not a balcony, but provides a view to the outside. On the right, we can see the transparent, easily openable Lumon type glazed balcony, which is providing us the kind of specific feeling that I mentioned earlier about. being inside and outside at the same time, being protected but feel the outdoors. And the one in the middle is it's a balcony, but does have a little bit heavy bay window kind of look in my mind. So as I worked a long time for Lumon, which it means that I like the idea, I like what we do, I like our product because it's minimalistic, it's great design, it's very pleasant to use, and provides us multifunctional balconies through year round. And what we will see in a while is really just an animation. Nothing else but animation, but I think it kind of shows us clearly the transition from the indoor to the outdoor. It shows us how this glazed balcony, somewhere in Vancouver, obviously, will adjust according to the weather, whether it's turning too sunny or whether it's turning, bad. So let's have a look at this video and get a relatively good idea of what a glazed balcony is. Oh yes, I think many of us would like spending time on such a balcony at any time of the year, really. But now let's move on, change the subject, so to speak. Let's move into the architecture. Let's move into the way buildings look like. And obviously, in this case, especially residential buildings with balconies, and what kind of variation is available there using the Lumon product portfolio when creating the glazed balcony spaces around the buildings. Even the first slide here shows how the variation can be, anything really can be created. At Lumon, we're not the architects. We are only offering the tools to the architects to create what seems best and desired at each situation. So let's focus on some of the different ways of how to create architecture using Lumon balcony facade. These great examples are very expressive, obviously. The glazed balconies, they form the elevation in a very impressive way. It's a very, very strong statement, and I like these both projects very much. One in London, one in Helsinki. And furthermore, with a similar approach in the skillful hands of architects, we have these examples from Spain and France, and again, very sculpturous, very, great architecture, where we have provided the glazing systems. Okay, yet another example, once again, sort of wild composition on the facade, but in a more, in a softer way than in the previous examples. One could even see that on this facade, the composition of the balconies is kind of a reflection of wild nature in a nice way, if you like. That's the way I see it. Or we can take a totally different approach, very calm and peaceful. Plain facade, with nice proportions, not too much happening there, but very pleasant to look at. You know, minor vertical elements here and there, a little bit of variation between the balcony sizes, obviously, but a beautiful example of peaceful architecture. As we have seen in the last couple of years, this sort of classical, less noisy, peaceful design seems to be taking over at the moment. Even modular design is getting popular once again. Nice example. I like this too. As well as this project in Antwerp. This is an example where I think the zone, once again, the zone between the interior and exterior is remarkably shown on the architecture. We have the core of the building, which is the apartments, the indoors, the actual living space. And around that core, there's a skeleton. And the zone between the skeleton and the core of the building is reserved for the balcony world. In this case, it consists of both open parts of the balconies and the ones that can be opened and closed according to the situation or the weather. Great example of that concept. This one is my recent favorites in Helsinki, where the concept is sort of similar to what we saw just a while ago in Antwerp. Different in the way that here we have a full height retractable glazing system and a picket rail in front. But again, sort of skeleton-like outer facade in front of the core of the building. And that is divided with open parts of the balconies and the ones that can be closed. These few examples show one approach in the design, in the composition of the balcony facade. Various sort of composition of rectangular parts consisting of the balustrade, the balcony glazing, some vertical fixed parts, some louvers, whatever different textures. Something that I've sometimes called a Mondrian-like balcony facade composition. This one again, typical loggias. We have a plain facade with holes in it, and the holes are filled with recessed balconies in a very simplistic way. Great design too. These are basically examples of the same concept. Sometimes the balconies itself are very simple. There's nothing special in the composition on how they are placed or where they are. The only thing in this case is that it's the silk printing on the balustrade glass that is making the statement. So no noise, you know, in other respects of the design, but just the pattern that has been created for these two jobs. Another approach, once again, how to use glass balustrade and balcony glazing as part of an architectural element of housing buildings. Okay, the social aspect then. I have thought about this a lot. And some of us live at private houses. We may or may not have glass terrace as part of the house. On the left, we see a very nice, relatively generous glass terrace. An absolutely great place for spending time privately with the family or socializing, giving them direct access to neighboring nature or neighborhood. Great place. What we see on the right is a balcony. It's a balcony with retractable Lumon glazing system. Fine, it's smaller than the glass terrace on the left, but it does exactly the same job. It offers the same kind of function. And I think it's very fair to think that people who live in apartments should be entitled to enjoy the same possibility as those with their own glass terrace connected to their home. This is living environment. We can see the glazed balconies on the facade. It gives us interaction with our neighbors. And I think that's the way it should be. I mean, it's not a closed place. It's a lively, living neighborhood. At best, sometimes I think I see that I can even see some, people maybe competing with how nice furniture they may put on their balconies for the others also to see. But it's joyful, and I think this is a good development to sort of having the living opening up to the environment. It gives a soft human touch to the places where we live. This is just one variation again about how to access from indoor to outdoors by steps. So sometimes we may have the glazed part of the balcony where you first step into from your living room, and then, as we can see on the picture on the left, there's a protruding separate part of the balcony which is always open. So that's a gradual move from inside to outside, from private to public. Nice design. When I'm traveling around and I get to speak to clients, I get to speak to architects quite often. I tell I'm coming from Finland, and for some reason, the balcony glazing concept saw the first light of day just over 30 years ago, and it happened in Finland, and we were part of that process. So some may say that it must be a Nordic thing. And yes, it is a Nordic thing, but it also is a Southern thing. It gives us protection against so many different things. It doesn't matter where we live. There's always a good reason to have this kind of very clear and transparent protection against different features. It may be the very noisy street, busy street like we have. We don't really see the street here in London in the picture in the picture on the right, but if the balconies were open, nobody would definitely stay on those balconies. I know that for sure. When we look at the when we look at the photograph on the upper left corner, we don't see the busy street. Definitely not. Great surroundings, but it might be windy and rainy at times, and therefore the protection is great to have. Or simply, like in the photograph in the lower left corner, people just wish to have more use for their balcony in an urban environment, having the retractable balcony glazing as part of the concept. Or in this case, obviously, it was already the architect's idea. I mentioned early on about the holistic profession that architect's profession is. We need to look into situations from many different angles, as many other professions, of course, as well. But one of these things is economics, costings, sales value, that are not always, so natural part of the architectural agenda, but it's always there, and we need to understand that part of the whole thing as well. We've seen before that there are many good reasons why people enjoy their balconies when they have retractable glazing system as part of it. This means they have a better living space. It means that they feel that their apartment is more valuable. And so for the discussions with developers, I've just done a very simplified, slide about value engineering, true value engineering. Of course, value engineering makes sense that, in the process, different parties are trying to find savings or trying to avoid unnecessary costs, trying to find an optimal solution. But when trying to cut the costs, attention needs to be paid to what may be lost when certain decisions are done. So in a simple way, there's an added value for the people, for the apartment, potentially, and really added sales value of the apartments. There certainly is a cost for the retractable glazing system as part of the concept. But my claim is, and like what we have seen at Lumon, that it definitely is far less than the added value in the apartment. So for the developer, that would clearly be the profit. That's the way, that's what we have thought. That's what we believe. 2 years ago, we had a research done by a research agency in numerous European countries, Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, Poland. And the main finding was, this was done amongst common ordinary people with balconies or glazed balconies. And the key finding was that 80% of the people thought that if the apartment had a glazing in the balcony, that would increase the value of the apartment a minimum 5% or even clearly more. We were not surprised, but I think it's, we were happy to see the result that we were kind of expecting already. Well, let's change the angle again. Lumon and the environment. Here I have a confession to make on behalf of Lumon or myself. 30 years ago, we did not start developing balcony glazing systems to achieve energy saving, not to mention to save the world. We simply tried to create something for the ordinary people to be able to spend more time on their balconies, even when the weather is not great. But today we're extremely happy and proud to know and tell that the glazed balcony really is quite meaningful in reaching energy savings in heating costs, and also better protection for the surrounding structures. We can say that it's a green act to include balcony glazing as part of the concept. Not only for the end user benefits, but in the fight against the climate change. This is a brand new summary on the studies on the carbon footprint of balcony glazing. Simple graphics. We see the small red column on the left. This is the carbon emissions that are produced in our process when we manufacture and install balcony glazing systems. All the way starting from the mining of raw materials for glass and aluminium to finished installation. Carbon emissions. The column in the middle, the carbon handprint. This is the savings in the expected life span of 30 years of one individual balcony glazing systems. According to greenhouse gas protocol calculations, this is the reduction, or this is the reduced carbon emissions thanks to the energy savings provided by the glazing systems. Obviously then, the green column on the right is the end result of all of this. It's clearly negative, meaning positive, of course, meaning reduced carbon emissions. As briefly mentioned, the balcony glazing also provides better structure durability. This means the Lumon systems are not waterproof, but they are weatherproof, meaning that there will be much less moisture on the balconies. The other structures are much less exposed to effects of water or possibly snow. It's especially valuable in areas and situations where there's a lot of driving rain, a lot of rain coming onto the balconies, salty water, and temperature varying around zero at wintertime. These are all factors that really are, very challenging to the structures. And obvious, the balcony glazing cuts off large part of this exposure on the balconies, meaning clear costs, clear savings in renovation costs, which should be important to any company who owns building stock. Major savings. And of course, to all of us, generally speaking, it means increased sustainability. As we have seen, there's a lot of different kind of protection that the balcony glazing can give us. It's all sorts of weather. It's trash, various particles in the air that it blocks. It gives us, with the help of the blinds, it gives us good adjustment of temperature on the balconies and in the bedroom or living room behind, as we saw in the brief video earlier. It also gives us better noise reduction, which actually is extremely important. The world is urbanizing heavily. We are moving into the cities, and most of us are vulnerable to traffic noise, especially. And balcony glazing is an extremely good way to block that from the apartment. And as I said before, we can even sit out on the balcony with the balcony glazing closed, have the feeling of being outside, but not to have to suffer the traffic noise around us, which can be very disturbing. And obviously, this is a factor and issue that we have had many research done in various instances over the time, and as we have seen in the most recent ones in Germany, we are able to reach the sound reduction index level of up to 27 decibel, which is an extremely high figure. And that being the case, even the sound level difference, which is another parameter dependent also on the surfaces, on the balcony, the walls, the roof, the layout of the balcony, even that figure can easily be more than 10 decibel, which means that the noise that we hear is cut down to half or less. It's very important for a space where you're supposed to relax. You don't want to be disturbed by, the traffic noise. So I suppose it's time to have another brief look at the Lumon product range. We've seen the photographs before, how it looks, and how the solution works and how it looks like. But let's have a brief overview on what we have and what we do with that. We have solutions for the balcony glazing, retractable balcony glazing, and the balustrade system that can be used in different business segments. Today, our focus has been in new construction balcony facades. This is what we do. In most cases, we provide the full balcony facade, the balustrade, and the balcony glazing. We're also involved in renovation projects in some countries very strongly, where old 60s and 70s blocks are renewed with a Lumon balcony facade. But we also work a lot with private people who have their homes or who have their private balconies. So we're offering glass terrace systems, we're offering the balcony glazing systems in the private business. In some countries, in Spain mostly, we're also heavily involved in providing retractable balcony glazing systems for the restaurants. Typical solution for a new building project: Lumon glass balustrade and retractable balcony glazing system on top. Very easy to use, elegant in design, in my mind. We can have a look at a couple of examples of how, with the Lumon parametric system, one can create different kind of balconies. What we see on the right is the end result of the solution, as we can see in the section drawing. Here, quite traditional. This is a vertically supported balustrade system, meaning that we have posts there that are anchored to the edge of the concrete slab with brackets. Balustrade glass is on the outside of the posts, and the balcony part and the bracket is covered with a cover profile. On top of all of this, there's the retractable balcony glazing system. In this case, top mounted with a telescopic profile with a flange to make a nice and flush solution. All of this is just a standard Lumon product. So the full balcony facade can be managed with the Lumon product range. Another example, here we have used the system which is often the best, not always, but we're using the handrail, a little bit wider and stronger handrail, as a fundamental structural element. The handrail is taking all the horizontal loadings, the line load, of course, but also the wind load on the balustrade and on the balcony glazing. That loading is transferred to the side walls. And in most cases, we can do this without having any posts at all on the balustrade part. In this example too, we can see how how with a specific Lumon solution, the slab edge cover is covered with a cover profile. And again, of course, the balcony glazing on top. Another solution here, an example from Germany. In this case, there's a full height retractable balcony glazing from Lumon on the inside of the balustrade. Obviously, the balustrade can be anything really. It can be glass balustrade is here. It can be picket rail. And the glazing is just from floor to ceiling, works in the similar way. Same product line, really. So very multi-use system within sort of like one product line, as we can see through these examples. This is the Lumon map as it is today, more or less. Belgium should not really be a gray spot as it seems to be here. But anyways, it's pretty much correct. We operate in the orange areas today, dominantly in Europe and in Canada, North America, but also in some other parts of the world. Directly or through our selected local certified partners. Okay, and on this slide we can see where we manufacture the products. Our home base is in Finland, manufacturing, and the headquarters in Kouvola has been since the beginning of it. There's another factory in Finland at Oulu where the blinds are manufactured. We have manufacturing facilities in Ontario, Canada. And at the moment, we have just recently started building a major manufacturing facility in Spain, which will be just as modern as the one in Finland, very automated production. So where you can find more, and you will need more information, of course. This is just a brief overview on what can be done with the balconies with the Lumon products. ProdLib, this is a product library that can be downloaded from our websites. Having done that, you will always have access to update information on the Lumon products and different features related to it. Also, very handy tool, Lumon Planning Guide on our website, easily available, where you can pick up information, download various drawings and other relevant basic information about the product. A design aid, planning tool. This is just an example of what opens up when you go further in the system, finding, various sections of the profiles and how they are being used. Here are some key notes of how I see that we are working at Lumon. Design principles and R&D. I think it's fair to say that we are definitely a forward-looking company. We are a growing company. We look ahead. We are modern. Yet in the design, we try to be timeless. It's important, equally important for us to make a system that works well for the end user. Easy to use, safe to use, well-working system. But again, it needs to have the aesthetics, elegant details. At the same time, as you understand, we're not a workshop. We are a major industrial company, and what we have created is parametric and systematic. It's a system product, which is always tailor-made for each balcony separately, using the parametric system. So I would like to emphasize that while it's a parametric system product, it's very versatile. It doesn't tie the hands of the architect of creating different kinds of balcony facades and different kind of setups and models in terms of the balconies. And being systematic and parametric and having developed all of this over the decades, what it means that it's a very it's a product line that can be, trusted very well. There's a lot of, studies and tests and all of that behind it. We are giving support. We are giving the planning tools and all these BIM families that have been updated recently. There's the ProdLib and all of that. But we also want to be very interactive in our support, because it's always, every project is specific. And there's always the need, and I really think the interaction is very important between people at Lumon in the sales, technical support, and architects and clients. We're very serious about design requirements and local regulations. It's challenging. We are operating internationally. It needs that we need to have competence in various technical fields. We need to be well aware of the local regulations and conditions. And we don't want to compromise reliability on what we do, that it complies, it satisfies the needs, complies the regulations and all of that. I think it's vitally important being successful in project business. Products are heavily tested, and are being tested all the time in all different aspects, and we have the needed certificates on the markets. And at the in-house operations, this is something that I'm proud of, and I've seen many areas of our operations quite close, having worked for the company a long time from Finland. We manufacture ourselves, from the very early stage. We get the jumbo panes at the factory, and we do all the cuttings and all the different bits and pieces. So we know about manufacturing, and we are in charge of that. We have our sales network. We know a lot about the sales. So it also means that we know a lot about the customer needs, whether it's the housewife somewhere or whether it's a major developer in another country. So we know the customer needs through that. We do the installations ourselves or by the certified partners, depending on the country. But we know about that. So we have gathered a huge amount of information in all these aspects. And I think it helps us going forward. And I would like to see us as a good cooperation partner for architects, because what we like to do, and I think in many cases we're able to share the specific expertise in the niche field of balconies, balustrades, and balcony glazing systems, and we want to share that information. We want to find and propose various solutions to find the best together, and often the best may be the best aesthetically and the best technically and also financially. The other reason why I think this cooperation, close cooperation and interaction is important is that we want to really understand what's important to you. Get the feedback, negative, positive, any thoughts, because to develop further, we need to know, we need to have a constant, vibrant discussion with architects. Spring has come, practically summer has arrived. So I think it's time to enjoy the sunny days on the balconies, as on this one in Helsinki. And continue doing that also on a crispy winter day, if you happen to live in an area with that kind of climate. I'm finishing with this. And I really thank you for your participation, and strongly looking forward to cooperation on Lumon's part with you in designing a better world, better homes, better balconies, all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Really love listening to you and your vast experience. We always learn a lot, and your specific approach to balcony design and to design for humans, and how to create better homes and better life, and why not a better world, with all the things you just showed us. A couple of questions we get quite a lot. You were talking about this specific zone between the interior and the exterior. What do you think? Is the glazed balcony normally considered as indoor or outdoor?
Okay, it's a good question, but I think the answer is pretty clear. It is technically, it's definitely, outdoor. It's outdoors. It's the protection. It's as mentioned before. It's not waterproof, but it's weatherproof. Yeah. So it's not regarded as part of the apartment. It's the specific area in between. But yes, technically, it's outdoors. Very clearly so.
Good clarification.
It needs to be a ventilated space, which is also important. It's not fully sealed. That that's important for maintenance of the structures inside also.
Yeah, of the nature of the product itself, and
yeah.
Then another interesting and very, in a sense, we all have been living strange times, and we all have experienced that the way of living during this pandemic we have been living has changed. All of us, we have lived in a different way and been much more home than what we used to be. How do you think, how has this pandemic changed the way we live our outdoor space, whether it's a balcony, whether it's a backyard? Some people talk even about like a post-pandemic architecture or design movement. And do you think these spaces should be taken into the consideration in a different way in future architecture?
Yeah, definitely. This specific area will have impact on many things. Of course, one thing being, of course, as I said before, I've traveled a lot, seen a lot, different places. I haven't done that in the last 15 months, as almost all of us. I've worked quite a bit at home this year. Obviously, we don't, if I tell an example from home, we don't have children anymore, obviously. So we share an apartment with my wife. We have downstairs where I have my office in one of the rooms where I mostly work. My wife is working upstairs, but she's not working in the living room. She's working on the glazed balcony most of the time, not on the tough winter days, but late winter, early spring. Now that's where she goes. When it's too sunny, she pulls down the blinds. When it's too cold, she puts up the sweater to stay there. But she just finds that more pleasant than inside in the living room. Definitely, as we've already witnessed now at Lumon, being heavily involved in the glass terrace business, we've seen a huge increase of demand for glass terraces because people are spending more time at home. But as you may remember the slide where I had the glass terrace and the glazed balcony together, the same goes for the balconies as well. But the rapid change was on the consumer side because it's immediate. People have realized in the project business this development will take longer to actually happen in reality. But yes, definitely there will be more attention paid to these spaces.
Yes. I mean, personally, I remember so well when the pandemic started in the year ago in March, April, living in Spain, how all the people were always at 8:00 afternoon clapping on their balconies. So that was when they really found their balconies, and we lived that area in a total different way.
Yes.
Thank you. Great to learn a lot today, and a couple of minutes left. So we please recommend you to follow us on our several different social media channels in different countries. You can subscribe to our blogs and stay informed and updated through that. In the next few days, you will receive an email with links to these blogs and interesting articles where you can learn more, or where you can relive this event with your colleagues that couldn't not assist today. We are, as said, very excited you could join us today. This is just the beginning. As promised when starting, this is the first event of a series of pro webinars we are going to organize. If you want to hear more about different balcony design or balcony concept issues, please send us a message about what you would like to hear about. And that's it. As we say here at Lumon in Finnish, it's a Finnish thank you. We usually say kiitos.
Kiitos. Thank you.
Thank you.